Adams County, Ohio. At the end of the 1700s, President George Washington awarded what was then the uncharted land beyond the Appalachian Mountains to Revolutionary War veterans in 600-acre parcels as payment for their service. But when the settlers arrived, they found much of the land covered with thousands of Indian burial mounds. And one of these was very different from the rest.
Imagine when you're pushing west, and all of a sudden you find this gigantic effigy mound in the form of a serpent. What you have is a gigantic structure which just sits there in the middle of a very interesting landscape.
Serpent Mound was one of the amazing, mysterious mounds found by the first settlers as they came over the Appalachian Mountains. There were thousands of mounds, but Serpent Mound must have been special.
Like the Nazca lines in Peru, Serpent Mound is a giant prehistoric structure that looks as though it is meant to be viewed only from the sky.
When you see the Great Serpent Mound in Ohio, it's massively huge, and it can't really be appreciated when you're standing there looking at it. What we have here is meant to be seen from the sky.
It's mysterious in the fact that it is on an elevated plateau and concealed from the world, unless you're flying over it in a plane. And it's on very uneven ground, and really, to lay that out and make it right, you'd almost have to be above looking down to get it right, which is a mystery.
This 1,330-foot-long structure winds across the land and depicts a coiled snake eating what appears to be an egg. It is the largest effigy mound in the world, and curiously, unlike most Native American mounds, the Great Serpent Mound was not constructed for burials.
Serpent Mound had no burials. It's one of those mysterious mounds that offered us no clue as to who the builders were. But on the property, there were burial mounds dated from about the very early Adena period, nearly 3,000 years ago.
Another curious aspect of Serpent Mound is where the ancient Native Americans chose to build it, on the outside swell of a 5-mile-wide meteor crater.
300 million years ago, a meteor came into this area and struck the Earth going about 50,000 miles an hour. The Serpent Mound is built right on the very edge of the crater. And there's magnetic anomalies and faults that go across the Serpent Mound, and that the Native Americans could douse them, and they could feel the positive energy that's coming out of the ground.
If you bring a compass to the Great Serpent Mound, there's certain spots where the compass needle just keeps going. So obviously, we have some weird magnetic fields there, and also some gravitational anomalies.
The myth has it that the Native Americans, when they came here, could see birds similar to passenger pigeons or homing pigeons circling by the millions, because within the skull of the pigeon is a little piece of hematite or magnetite, and that's how they navigate. And they couldn't figure out where north was. Can you imagine millions of birds flying in a circle 5 miles wide?
In addition to creating magnetic anomalies, the meteor also deposited a number of elements not indigenous to the area, including one of the rarest elements on Earth, iridium.
When we look at the location of the Serpent Mound, we find not only that there is iron, that there is uranium, but also iridium. Iridium can withstand temperatures up to 2,000 Celsius. It is non-corrosive, and it's actually been used in unmanned spacecraft.
A lot of iridium apparently comes from outer space rather than being found on the Earth. There is a use of iridium for thermoelectric circuits. These deep space probes include actually a radioactive source because it's the only thing that can provide enough power when you're out beyond Jupiter and there's no sunlight and there's no nothing.
We have iron, iridium, and uranium. three substances which definitely should not be considered to be of any use to Native Americans. The question then is, to who are they of use?
Ancient astronaut theorists believe extraterrestrials may have come to this site to mine iridium for their spacecraft, and point to numerous caves found in the crater swell beneath the mound as evidence of this.
Right here, you can see one of those caves. It's pretty large, and since this site is believed to be many, many millions of years old, there's a chance that there are many, many caves.
But if alien visitors really did come here to mine iridium and other elements, might this explain why the Serpent Mound was built on a scale that made its shape visible from the sky?
The Serpent Mound is a marker for space according to the Shawnee Indians. They're convinced that space travelers are using Serpent Mound as a marker.